Okay.
So I wrote that this morning too because we had a writing session on Tuesday, which is when I usually watch the movie. So I watched the movie last night, Wednesday, and wrote Treasure Planet this morning, my Treasure Planet pitch, right? Which is about about 3 pages. Here, my record. I broke my record today. I wrote an entire episode of This Is a Thing in one day, including my thesis. This includes my master's thesis. I've never written this much. In one day, I wrote 4,730 words.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Now, was all of that usable? I don't know, but that's why we have editors. Welcome. You are entering into a strange dimension. A dimension where narratives from across space and time come together. Narratives that could have, might have, or should have been all exist here in one space. This is CineCasters Ultimate Timeline.
Hello, and welcome to CineCasters. This is the show where we watch movies, talk about them, and repitch them in alternative storylines and analyze what could have been done to make them better. I am Nathaniel Draper. I am joined as always by my very good friend Andrew DeYoung.
What's going on?
And today we are doing I think it's 2002 Disney film Treasure Planet.
Yeah. Treasure Planet.
Basically an adaptation of Treasure Island, but in space with pirate ships in space.
Which you think I would be all for because I fucking love pirates and I fucking love space. But this movie just doesn't do it for me.
See, that's interesting. I thought that was going to be what my criticism was going to be of it, but I actually got on board with it, strangely.
I like this movie, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island is just a good story. Mm-hmm. And it comes across in here, you're like, this is a good story. I just wonder what this does that's new. Like, other than the visuals, the visuals are kick-ass.
Well, yes, absolutely.
The visuals are kick-ass. What does this show, movie, thing do that's new?
In terms of story and character and theme and things like that, you mean? Yeah. I don't have an answer.
Well, have you read Treasure Island?
I
know you have.
I actually have not.
Yeah, I know you have.
Read Treasure Island?
Well, you haven't read it, but I know you know the story of it because you had it read to you by Mrs. Thompson in grade 5.
See, interestingly enough, I have no memory of this.
Oh, yeah. She at least started. I don't know if she finished, but she at least started reading it to us when we were in grade 5.
I don't remember. That's so interesting. I've been meaning to read it, though, because I've always... That whole Jim and Long John Silver relationship, or I think the character in the original... Is it Jim in the original as well?
Yep.
Can't remember. Yeah, I found that relationship interesting. I always liked that dynamic of the pirate who's sort of like manipulating this child, but then feeling of two minds about it.
Yeah.
And then this sort of like absent father figure.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a very interesting dynamic.
Well, most critics say that Long John Silver, the character, is like the most deep and nuanced character in the show. Like it can be read like it can be read two ways. Like, is he actually just manipulating Jim, or is he actually coming around and changing? You know what I mean? Like, he's a deep character in that way, which is interesting. But yes, I do know that we both know the story because we had it read to us by our grade 5 teacher, at least parts of it. And we watched Muppet Treasure Island that year in school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen Muppet Treasure Island.
Because all I remember, anecdote time. All I remember is Miss Thompson had her back turned as she was writing on the board.
Uh-huh.
Miss Thomas or Miss Thompson?
I think it was Thompson.
Yeah, I think it was Thompson. So Miss Thompson had her, and she was writing on the board. We were giving out suggestions. We were supposed to be giving out suggestions for like names of pirates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I said Buccaneer.
Uh-huh.
No, maybe Privateer. I said something like that. And she turned around and went, "Who said that?" And the whole class was silent.
Yeah.
Right? Because she said it in a way that was like, you'd said something wrong.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I did. And I like slowly raised my hand and she was like, "Excellent job." And I was like, I remember that vividly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. That's so interesting.
I remember sitting in class and her going, "Who said that?" And me being like, like slowly putting my hand up. And her being hilarious. Like, "Oh, excellent job, Andrew." And I was just like, "What the heck, man?" Yeah.
I can, you know what? I can visualize this. Like, I can see it all happening, but I don't have any memory of this.
Yeah,
happening.
You were sitting right next to me on my right side, left side, whatever side that is.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, I have no memory of this.
Well, there you go. Anyway, we learned about pirates that year in class.
I do remember that, actually, because we read a story about...
The Money Pit Mystery by Eric
That
Walter.
was it, yeah. Yes. Okay. That's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic Canadian author. Yeah. And so we started learning about pirates, and we read, at least had part of this story read to us. We had watched Muppet Treasure Islands in class. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And Eric Walters came to our school that year.
Yes. I remember that. I do remember Eric Walters coming to our school, and I remember him talking, and I remember him saying, I think the one thing I remember from his talk with us, he said, like, don't have too many characters in your story. He said, if you have a story, you can't have too many characters. Yeah. And that's something I've always sort of kept in mind, actually.
Yeah, I remember that too.
So there you go.
Talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Walters, thank you for that advice on writing.
Shout out to Eric Walters, fucking 15 years later.
Yeah.
God, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
But so my real question for this in terms of likes and dislikes is, for me, other than the visuals, what does this movie do? Like, why would I watch this version over Muppet's Treasure Island? Muppet's Treasure Island has Muppets and Tim Curry playing Long John Silver.
Oh yeah, that's Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has music, like, not that this movie doesn't have, it's a musical, right? Like, we've got cabin fever.
It's Hans Zimmer doing the music for that too.
So, like, why would I watch this over Muppet's Treasure Island?
I don't know, because you like cartoons, maybe.
I do like cartoons, but I also like musicals.
Oh, true, yeah. Maybe, okay.
And the humor in Muppets, the Muppets inherently have, I think, lends itself better to storytelling.
The Muppets Treasure Island is excellent. Yeah. I mean, the one character I remember that I love from that film was the guy who's like, it's most unsafe. Yeah. I checked the lifeboats and they were most unsafe.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but yeah. I don't know. It's just, I love the maritime feel of this music. I do think the movie is very visually stunning. I love that the reveal that the spaceport is the moon.
That was cool.
At the beginning. Yeah. That's just a really, really excellent, like, shot compositionally, like, sequence. Mm-hmm. Really, really good. The animation's pretty smooth. They don't look particularly wooden. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the whole movie was just to get Dr. Doppler to say the one line where he's like, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor."
Like, I feel like not that kind of doctor.
Yeah, and I'm like,
you just sit there and you're useless.
Yeah, the whole movie was just to get to this point, and you're like, okay, like, and
that was the best line in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the whole movie is just to justify this line, but like, also the fact that they keep calling them drabloons.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, wow. Drabloons, because it's supposed to be like spacey, right? So they, instead of doubloons, they're like, oh, like, it's almost like that Rick and Morty joke where they're just like, the space doubloons. We gotta go get the space treasure from the space pirates in the space booty space.
Well, there was actually an Italian miniseries called Treasure Island in Space. Ooh. That came out in like the 80s.
Is it better?
Yeah. I don't know, but when I looked at it, I did a little research today, and it said, like, yes, there was another adaptation called Treasure Island in Space.
Well, I also felt like Morph was basically just Slimer.
Slimer.
From Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like a pink Slimer.
It's just a pink tiny Slimer.
Yeah, but not as, like, malicious.
Slimer. Well, I mean, Slimer in the TV show wasn't that malicious, but...
Oh, okay. I never watched the TV show. I'm just thinking of the movie.
Awesome.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Real Ghostbusters, you mean?
The Real Ghostbusters, yeah.
Yeah, I never watched it. Yeah, okay. I should give that a viewing.
It's a good... There's a lot of episodes, but it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Back when we had television, back in my day when we used to get TV, it used to come out, Teletoon used to air it every Halloween would come around and they would air episodes of the Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to Cthulhu, actually, to the H.P. Lovecraft mythos.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ah. No, I never watched it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so Morph is basically like a cute
pink Slimer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was weird, like, early's alt-rock montages.
Yeah, I thought that was a little misplaced, too.
Pseudo-grunge alt-rock, like uplifting grunge in the montages. I don't know.
I'm a misunderstood teenager from the year 2001.
So, I mean, it is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, I'm
assuming this would have been before Brick then.
Oh, yeah, it must have been. Like, or
yeah, but would have been. Yeah, he was still a little baby.
Yeah, like it would have been even before like 10 Things I Hate About You,
right?
Which came out before Brick, I think, as well.
Would have been before Inception.
Oh yes. I don't know. So this movie was. I will say I did enjoy watching it. Like I was like, this isn't a waste of my time. I didn't feel like it was like Sausage Party where I was like, why am I watching this? Why would I force myself to watch this movie? Whereas when I watched this one, I was like, this movie's fine. It's fine. It's not Disney's best, but it's certainly not Disney's worst.
True. Yeah.
I liked this movie more than I liked Dinosaur.
Yes, I would say that as well.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed it as much, if maybe a little bit more than Atlantis.
I preferred Atlantis.
Interesting. I feel like Atlantis overall, there were some things really working for it, but there were some other things that were really problematic that took it down for me.
I would agree with that. But one of the things that I have noticed, and I might start calling this the CineMasters effect, is after we talk about a movie, I tend to start to think about it more in regards to my pitch than I do the movie itself. Like in terms of the themes.
Interesting.
So like ever since we did Brave in particular, and if anyone is watching the show and has watched a lot, will know that Brave is the pitch that I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
Brave has actually become more and more one of my favorite movies.
Interesting.
Because my pitch has like skewed the way that I think about it. Interesting. Obviously the movie hasn't changed at all, but my perception of it has. Like the fact that I could be like, this was where the idea for something that I'm so attached to, and I'm very attached to that pitch, came from. And so it changes the way that I think about that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I can't say anything that specific has happened to me, but I definitely I can say that there have been times when after we've done an episode, I'll think back on a movie and my opinion of it will have changed from when I first watched it and then even like wrote my pitch.
Yeah.
Like in talking about it, there are new things that come to light that I think about that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. Warm Bodies was another one where I was like, this movie's okay. But after we talked about it, I was like, that movie was kind of amazing in its own way.
You know what? I appreciated it more after we talked about it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed myself referencing it quite a bit more, actually. Beyond than I would have thought I would have.
Yeah, I would have thought like this was a fun kind of rom-com that was a one-off, but like that movie has really stuck with me.
Same with me. Yeah.
So like this sort of CineMasters effect. Whereas Atlantis, when I think about Atlantis, I still think about like what if it was a TV show, and that really. And the kind of pitches that both of us had, where we were both like, actually, this long form kind of pitch would have worked better than it would have as a movie. And
interesting.
So I actually think I still prefer Atlantis than I do this movie, Treasure Planet.
Interesting.
Not that there's anything wrong. I think that's just taste. I will say, I think that these were both made around the same time.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Yeah, and you can tell like the animations definitely had an effect or an influence on each other. It feels very similar. The movements and way things flow.
Yeah. Even the look of the main character. He's got the same kind of like skull shape, same haircut, same.
Yeah, they look
sort of fish out of water.
Similar. And I love this sort of the steampunk, diesel punk versus futuristic aesthetic of Atlantis, which is also carried over into this with this kind of like this nautical. I don't know what you want to call it. Retro futuristic nautical space pirate aesthetic.
Yeah, it's sort of like halfway between like Waterworld and Titan AE.
Yeah. Oh, there was another movie that was around the same time, except not nearly as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. this movie was fine. Not a great one, not the worst one I've ever seen. It was just fine for me.
Okay.
What about you?
So you kind of hit on the things that I thought. I tried to pick apart some things. I tried to hone in on some things that I thought weren't working, because my initial impression watching it was, okay, I'm not bored. I'm entertained, but I feel like it's all surface level. I feel like there's something I'm wanting more out of it. But the things I thought worked, I thought the concept, I thought the way it was visualized was interesting and imaginative. Like I said, I thought I was gonna go, oh, this is stupid, but I actually didn't have an issue with it. I thought there were some interesting characters. The John Silver character. I thought Martin Short.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Martin Short. That character I found that entertaining.
Yes.
The one line that you mentioned, I'm a doctor, not that kind of doctor, I thought that was brilliant. And then, as I said before, in the original source material, it's carried over, but the John Silver relationship, I've always found that fascinating. And it does work here. I actually think it played well.
Yeah.
Where I think the movie suffers, I think it's really in the first act. The first act really drags it down. And I think in the first act, there's just if you look at how it unfolds, it's way too expository. There's way too much explaining of things that are going on. And the other thing that I thought was interesting, and I don't mean interesting in oh, that's really thoughtful and smart. I mean interesting, why did they do this way, was the montage bits where you see him thinking the sad, I'm a misunderstood teenager montage with the kind of indie alt early 2000s music. When he's it's the flashback to him being a kid. I got what they were trying to do. They were trying to draw the parallel between, he's been abandoned and now the John Silver character is filling that position. But I felt like that should have gone at the beginning of the movie. I feel like that was it was such a strange place to have this. I mean, we knew he's a fatherless boy and that's why he's acting out, so to speak. But instead of
did we really know that? Because it sort of just told us. Like we see him getting into trouble and then he's like, "Are you the boy's father?" "Oh, no, I'm not the boy's father." And he's like, "Ever since his father left." It's like, show, don't tell.
See, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. That's how it comes about. Whereas I feel like there was, and that's basically what I mean. There was a lot of showing. There was a lot of telling and not showing. I felt like the other problem was that the Jim character, the goal was kind of unspecific.
Yes.
So, and what I mean by that was did he want greatness? Did he want the treasure? Exactly. It was really, there wasn't anything specific to what he really wanted.
Yeah,
I know it's he wants the treasure.
Did he want a father? Did he want?
Yeah, exactly.
And at the end, he becomes he gets into Space Academy to do Space Academy things, and you're like, cool. Is that what he wanted? I thought he was trying to buck authority, and now he's become part of the army, which is or Navy in this case, Space Navy, which is literally, an army structure, an army organization, institution, which is all about authority.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was a little. And I thought the way it tied up was just way too, everything wrapped up way too neatly.
Yeah.
In the end. So,
and also now Dr. Doppler and Amelia have children, because why?
Yeah, exactly. That relationship, how it developed, I didn't have too much of an issue with that.
I did have an issue with that. And it's not because I don't think cats and dogs can't mix, because they certainly can.
Right.
It's because the reason I have a problem with it is because both of those characters are super important for the scenes that they're in, and then they're just not.
Right.
I don't care about their relationship when they're not in the scene. Whereas when the scene is about the two of them and I'm watching, I'm like, okay, this is fine, but I really want to get back to John and Jim.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see.
When John and Jim are on screen, either together or apart, because they're either on the same side or against each other for whatever reason, I'm constantly like, how is this going to turn out? I'm never sitting there going, gee, I wonder how Dr. Doppler and Amelia are doing.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point actually, and I wouldn't disagree with that, because it's It's almost like they were like, oh, we need a love story of some kind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it does have that feeling.
You can have them be friends and have them be on screen, but at the end when they're just like, oh, we have kids now, it's just like, but why? What purpose does this serve? If you want to show them starting a relationship, I would be more on board with that. But already having their relationship established and then having them have kids already seems very strange to me. Like, why would you take that leap?
Yeah, it does come out of the blue. And that's what I mean. Like the ending just sort of has this massive jump in logic, like him suddenly being in this establishment, which really is not, it doesn't follow the continuity of his character. And there's nothing up to that point that would make a change where he'd go, oh, this is something that I want.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I feel like the biggest thing that's dragging this movie down is really the central character. It doesn't really have much of a character, really.
Well, yeah, what is Jim supposed to be? And
exactly.
Actually, if you're okay with it, I'll jump right into my pitch because that's exactly.
Go for it.
So that was my.
That's everything that I had to basically say about the movie. So go for it.
So that was my central problem with this movie was that I felt like Jim was a non-character to have the whole movie center around him. So instead, I was like, well, my problem with this movie was like, what is this saying that's new other than putting it in space? So I was like, change of plans. Long John Silver is the main character now.
Oh, cool. I thought about doing that, actually. Yeah. I didn't, but I'm glad you did, because I think that's a very interesting direction to take it. Yeah.
So the movie actually opens, and we're in the middle of like a space storm, or maybe we're just on a planet that is storming, or they're like just inside of a planet's atmosphere, and it's like storming, and we're introduced to Long John Silver, and hit this crew of pirates who are trying to, like, in this storm in the atmosphere of a planet, they're trying to chase down another skiff with a guy named Billy Bones on it, right? Okay. So immediately we're thrust into action. So Silver is basically like, he has something we want, we're going to shoot him out of the sky. So as they approach, they manage to shoot Billy Bones' ship, and he crashes down onto the planet, and so they drive the ship near, and they wind up seeing the crash site, right? And they search through it, but there's no Billy Bones, and there's the thing that Silver is looking for isn't there. And so they look over, and they see the Benbow Inn, and he tells his crew to follow him. So Silver pulls out this awesome cannon thing from his robot leg, because he has that, and he tells them, he's basically like, we're going to burn the place down until we find Billy Bones. And one of the crew is like, well, there's a bunch of innocent people in there who don't have anything to steal. Is it really worth us, torching the place, or should we just go in? And Silver basically goes, no, I'm a hardened pirate. I will get what I want. We're going to burn this place apart to find Billy Bones. And they basically like blast the fucking place apart. And we see Jim, the doctor, and his mother jump out of the window in time for Silver to see they're holding the object. But none of them see Silver's face. So then back aboard his ship, Silver basically says, he's like, if they want to follow it, it's a map. He's like, it's a map. He tells the crew, if they want to follow the map to Treasure Planet, they're going to need a ship, which means we're going to go to the spaceport. They go to the spaceport and they can have some fun piratey kind of adventures where they're like rough housing with other not rough housing, but like getting into fights with other pirates and, general good-natured pirate shit. i.e. Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Right. The Disney pirate shit.
Yeah, Disney pirate shit. So they hear a doctor. They hear of a doctor who's attempting to order a ship under the pretense of an expedition, but rumors all over the port abound about a map to Treasure Planet. This happens every so often. That rumors will, set the blaze or set the whole place ablaze as they spread. But Silver, of course, wants to know all the information. So Silver sets up a ploy to get his crew hired on a ship as an upstanding crew, but he makes it look like his best mate is the quartermaster of the crew. So the quartermaster is like the person who speaks for the crew.
Right.
He makes it look like his best mate is actually the quartermaster for the crew, and that Silver himself, who is the captain of his crew, is actually only a lowly cook. And of course, this is all his plan, because they're actually, and he explains all this, they're actually going to mutiny and take the ship to Treasure Planet once they get the map, and they do a mutiny on the captain. So the ship sets under sail, and Silver finds himself all of a sudden in charge of Jim Hawkins. He sets about teaching the boy Like, it's basically, you're going to cook and clean and be a swabby. So Jim is defiant and doesn't really listen at first, and he gets into trouble with the captain and the other crew. But Silver tells the boy it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to want to be your own person. You want to be the one who calls the shots instead of taking them. But if that's your dream, then you got to work towards your dream. And sometimes that means you got to make sacrifices.
Right.
And he lifts up his pant leg, and we see his robotic leg. And he says, not all sacrifices not all the sacrifices you make will be physical like this one, but if your dream is worth it, then you take your lumps and you work towards your end goal, right? And Jim is like, so was it worth losing your leg? And Silver says, he's like, I hope it will be. I hope it will be. So from this point on, we see Jim begin to take his job seriously. He takes the orders and he takes his job seriously. And Silver even starts teaching him more and more about how to sail, how to be on the ship. And at first, Jim is grateful, but then he's like, how does a cook know so much about how a ship works? Not just how to sail, but also like all the commands and flags and symbols and meanings, how to navigate using only the stars, and proper like ship strategy in terms of like battling. And so Silver begins to worry that Jim might be starting to think that he's more than what he actually is telling. You know what I mean? He's more than just a cook. So the supernova happens, and that whole part can play out the exact same with Hawkins, Jim in charge of the lifelines, but the guy cuts the lifeline and Mr. Arrow falls in. That's fine, whatever. So Jim is blamed for it, and seeing his reaction, the crew shows up in the galley, just the crew, and Silver is basically like, you can't pull another stunt like that, and he's like freaking out on them because Jim was blamed for it. But the crew sees his reaction and they think Silver's gone soft. Because he's starting to have affection for the boy. But Silver says he knows what's at stake. He calms them down. So after Silver leaves, he's left alone with his thoughts, and he's wondering, is he in fact going soft on Jim? Like, is he thinking, maybe he likes the boy. He's told the boy as much, but there's a lot of potential, and he's smart. But then Silver looks at his leg, and he steals his heart. He remembers everything he sacrificed for his dream, and he can't let his affection for Jim get in the way. So they carry out the mutiny. Silver asks Jim if he wants to join the crew with all his talent, but Jim is like, no, I'm going to stick it out with the captain and the doctor because I'm going to do what's right. And they manage to escape with the map. So they escape on a skiff, the smaller boat, and we get a scene that parallels the chase scene from the earlier in the movie, where they shoot the skiff down and it lands on the planet, just like it did with Billy Bones. And Silver and his crew go to where the boat landed, and he, they see the boat and they start ransacking through it. They can't find the map. They can't find Jim or any of the people. And then they see an old cabin where it looks like they're staying. And the crew basically asks, do you want us to ransack the place, tear it apart, and bring the map back? But this time Silver says, no, we're going to do this a different way. Right? Showing that he has hesitations about hurting Jim. So instead he opts to negotiate. He says, if you give me the map, everyone can leave, including yourself, no harm. And that the captain's wounds are probably too bad, so she'll need to see a doctor. Otherwise, we can wait until she dies, and then we'll storm the place anyway, right? So Jim's like, okay, let's agree. Sundown. I'll give you the map by sundown. So Silver is like, Jim's pretty clever, but why would he stall unless he doesn't have the map? He just thinks we just think that he does, which means he's like, the map is still on the ship. So he sends some of his crew to go back, but Jim manages to escape with Ben. That's the bioelectric navigator,
the short character.
Yeah. So Jim returns, but Silver tricks him and winds up taking them hostage with the map anyway. They find the vault in the center of the planet, but the trap goes off and the treasure begins to be vaporized by the planet lasers, just like it was in the movie.
Right.
And as Jim and his companions try to escape, they are cut off by the entrance. And so Silver is now escaping on like his boat with all the treasure. But again, he looks at his robotic leg. He sees them all like they're dying out there, or they're going to die because they can't escape. And he tries to steal his heart, but he can't do it this time. And so he leaves the treasure and goes to rescue Jim. And so on the ship, like they've all escaped, and Silver is in the brig. He's in the jail on the ship. And Jim goes down to the brig to see Silver, and there's no one there. And Jim runs down all the way to the bottom of the ship, where he finds Silver is already on a skiff, like already off the ship, and he's waving at Jim, and he says, you know, I knew you'd be the one to try and catch me, but and so then Jim is really upset. He's like, I can't believe he still wanted to escape after all this time. Like, thought he was going to do the right thing. And so Jim goes back to the galley, the place where he, you know, was taught all the stuff that Silver taught him. And on the counter of the galley, he finds a note addressed to him from Long John Silver. And in voiceover, we get the note. It says, Dear Jim, don't be upset that I've left. I'm a pirate through and through, and you can't expect me not to try and avoid the noose as long as possible. I knew that you'd be the one to notice me gone, and I'm sorry I had to leave, but I left you this note as a way to say goodbye and to say thank you. You'll make a fine space sailor one day, and don't forget who taught you all the best skills. I hope one day we meet each other out there sailing on the solar sea. We can swap stories. I'd like that. Thank you, Jim, for showing me that it was worth losing my leg for my dream, and that sometimes an old dream can give way to a new one. Your good friend, Captain Long John Silver. P.S. I left you a little something to remember me by, and to help your mum with the inn. And there's in the envelope. Jim looks in, and in the envelope is a few gold coins and a fine necklace that fall out. And then we cut to Silver on the skiff in the light of the sun, like the space sunset or whatever. And he puts his hand in his pocket and he pulls out a few more coins and jewels. And he chuckles to himself and he looks back at the fading ship. And he goes, "Good luck, lad." And then it ends.
Nice. Cool.
I think Silver is a far more interesting character.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And so I think telling the story from his perspective, where we see like everything that he's worked for to get this treasure, and he still gives it up for Jim.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, and that's why I like your version, because the problem with the original is that the main character doesn't really have to give anything up.
Yeah.
And that's why it doesn't really work, is because the main character doesn't have this moment where he's got to make a choice.
Yeah.
That would then, would challenge their, what they believe. Like if you think about, Shrek, for example.
Shrek, or just any hero's journey. Like I was just going to say, if we go back to Joseph Campbell's, like the hero journey, although Joseph Conrad's probably does follow the hero's journey.
Probably. And did it before Joseph Campbell did.
Yeah. But Joseph Campbell, like his whole like hero's journey, you have to give something up or lose something in the dark place, wherever that is.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the reason I bring up Shrek is because Shrek actually is it follows this trajectory perfectly, almost. But the thing that's good about Shrek is a good model because it actually, and it's an animated film too, but you basically have the goal and the need are in opposition to each other.
Yeah.
So you have a character who wants to be alone, but his need is that he needs to be, he can't be alone.
Yeah.
And so the goal and the need come to this head in the middle of the movie when he's basically got to decide, like he has his heart broken basically, and then he goes, no, I'm actually going to go after her.
Yeah.
And that's when the goal, basically the goal and the need are unified in one single action.
Yeah, but it's a character decision that makes that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, you have John Silver doing it in this, but you don't have Jim doing it.
Yeah, which is why if you tell the story from John's perspective, and I like the idea of showing him up in the first scene, going straight into action and being like, oh, here's this hard pirate, and then we slowly see him soften over the course of the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah,
thank you.
That was excellent.
Yeah, again, I still think my movie doesn't actually have any particularly philosophical themes to it. It just becomes a more cohesive thematically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, the original story is more of an adventure story, but you still have that strong character, and it kind of becomes a bit more of a character study at that point.
Well, that's why I also wanted him to escape at the end too. I was like, that's just. Yeah. He's a pirate.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine the end of Pirates of the Caribbean where Captain Jack Sparrow gets caught and then they hang him? What a bummer.
No, exactly.
He gets caught and then he escapes, and it's dope.
Exactly. It's interesting that we somehow want, in some cases, the criminal, let's say, I'm doing the air quoting thing, to escape.
I think it depends on the kind of criminal. When you have a character...
Well, see, that's what I mean. That's how we, yes, defined by the law, they're a criminal, but that doesn't mean they're a bad guy, necessarily, in the case of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, I just think, you want your You want your awesome like anti-heroes to survive and win. You want them to win even though they're quote unquote bad people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I just think it's fascinating that that's actually something that we resonate with, like as an audience, that we actually would want that to happen.
Well, I think the reason for that is because we wind up having these really good people, these characters that are flawed, but are they're good people at heart, like Jack, like Long John Silver, like any number of anti-heroes. They're not the good guy per se, but they do have ideas about what good could be, but they live outside of the law. I mean, most pirates were actually like actual naval officers of either France, Spain, or England, or many others. And those are only Western pirates, so excuse me for not knowing my Eastern pirates more better, or African pirates for that matter. But these were usually law Marines or part of the Navy captains who, when war wasn't happening, they only had one way to live, and so they turned to piracy. And so they're not bad people. They felt like they were shunned by the crown, and that's why we get privateers who basically are just pirates who are hired by the crown. And so they're not necessarily bad people. And so when we paint them in a light where we're like, these are people who live, they're good people who maybe have tenuous relationships with the law and they play by their own rules, we see this as this kind of like, they understand this like real freedom. And I would never do that, but they shouldn't be punished for being not technically bad people. Shouldn't be punished for being good people just because they don't agree with the law.
Yeah. I just find I think it's fascinating that you would think that as a society we would be conditioned more to say like, oh, they're criminals and therefore bad. But in some cases it seems to not. Our response to it actually seems to be the reverse. Yeah. Where we actually admire someone who's able to stand in defiance against this system and remain free from it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we love an underdog, and we love a rebel.
There you go. Yeah, it's true. I certainly do.
Yeah.
Shall I get into my pitch now?
Yeah.
All right. So I tried to stick with Jim as the main character, but what I tried to do is try and basically marry the goal with the need a bit more clearly. So basically make it so that his desire to go to Treasure Planet is much more directly tied to this need for a father figure. That's what I tried to do, and you can let me know whether I succeeded or not.
Yeah.
But basically it starts off with Jim losing his father, but the way it's told is it's his father would tell him about Treasure Planet, would tell him these stories. And one night his father is telling him the story, and Jim falls asleep, and Jim wakes up the next morning and finds that his father has left.
That bastard.
I know. I was also thinking of doing it because I just watched Kramer versus Kramer. The opening scene is the Meryl Streep character like leaving the family, but you do it like the way it's performed. The father leaving the son. He's telling the story, but he knows he's telling it for the last time. Yeah. But Jim doesn't know that. Anyway, so we see right off the beginning Jim losing his father, hearing these stories, and then we show his mom is struggling with the inn, and for what like Jim was supposed to be there to help, but he's not. And she's frustrated, and then the police show up, having just arrested him. That whole sequence with him like doing the space glider surfing thing was cool, but it didn't really add anything to the story, in my opinion. So I just cut it out. Anyway, so now we see, his mom's angry at him, he's in trouble with the law, and now we see he's in the inn, he's like washing some dishes or something, and then he sees the ship crash. And it plays out more or less the same way as it does in the movie. But in this time they actually bring Billy Bones in, and Billy Bones actually stays at the inn, and they try to nurse him back to health. And this is where I'd get in the line of the Dr. Doppler going, oh, I'm not a doc. Yeah. I just have a PhD. You just sit there and you're useless.
Which is super not true, by the way.
I feel like it's a way someone with a PhD would feel, though, in that instance.
In that situation.
Like, where it's like, oh, I can think these abstract thoughts, but here I am dealing with a concrete issue, and I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so in this version, Billy Bones is staying at the inn. He actually shows Jim the map. Billy Bones like knows he's dying, and he like gives Jim the map. And basically he's like, I just don't want the cyborg. The subtext is, I just don't want the cyborg to get it. It's coming out of more of this personal vendetta than it is like he just doesn't want the cyborg to get the treasure.
Yeah, nothing to do with you. Just don't give it to that fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
That cybernetic bastard.
Exactly. Anyway, the inn gets attacked, but the Long John Silver character's not there. It's just other pirates. And basically, in this kerfuffle, the pirates try to find the map. Jim and his mother are there. They're like throwing the place like upside down, and they end up in the process like they completely destroy it and burn it down, and Jim and his mother escape in the process. Anyway, after they've escaped, he basically says like, oh, I think they were looking for this. And then his mother's furious. She's like, you had this stupid, that's what they were looking for, and my inn is being destroyed because of this like stupid sphere. So what happens is Dr. Doppler says, actually, like they figure out that it's a map, and Jim explains like, oh, it's a map to this place. And Dr. Doppler says, okay, look, here's what we'll do. I think we could sell this for money. So he convinces, and Jim feels guilty. He feels like, okay, I've let my mom down, and now because I didn't, like, her inn is burnt down because of me. And so basically when Dr. Doppler says, look, I think I can sell this and we can get enough money and extra that you could build an even bigger inn. So he convinces Jim to give him the map. And also because basically Jim's like, can't we go look for it? And Dr. Doppler's like, we just can't. We don't have the money anyway. Like there's no way to actually finance this expedition.
Yeah.
So he goes to sell the map, and what happens is Jim actually ends up like following him and finds that Dr. Doppler actually does not go to sell it, but actually does have the money.
Oh, damn.
And tries to finance his own crew. Jim catches him doing it and calls him out on it, and basically threatens to tell the rest of the crew that he will like expose the fact that this is a map to Treasure Planet. And Dr. Doppler says, okay, don't. You can come along then. As long as you promise not to tell anybody. So Jim comes along as a cabin boy, and I had another little bit here where as they're leaving, they pass by another ship, and it's piloted by another captain who is the ex-husband of the captain on their ship. Mm-hmm. And this is important because it comes back later. And he gives her a hard time because she's now like a captain for hire, and he's like, you should have stayed with the Navy. You should have stayed with us. I don't know why you're going off and working on your own. So they have a bit of a tiff, but then she goes off and captaining their ship, and then they go off. And then it takes more or less the same shape from this point on, in terms of like Jim's working with Silver. He is suspicious of Silver, but he sees that Silver, like in terms of the way Silver treats him, there's actually like Silver's being nice to him, so he thinks that actually the Billy Bones is referring to a different cyborg. Plus the crew that crashed therein is a completely different crew, actually connected to Silver, but not on this boat. So that's how Jim wouldn't recognize anybody on board. And also because Jim is feeling irked that Doppler basically betrayed him by saying he was going to sell the map and then didn't. That's why he's spending more time with Silver. He's choosing to spend more time with Silver.
Because he doesn't trust Doppler anymore.
Because he doesn't trust Doppler. And this is the second time someone who'd been kind of like a father figure has betrayed him. So he's spending more time with Silver. And then I had a note here, a joke. I said montage to 90s, but not to 90s, early 2000s rock. And then I said like, oh, maybe Phil Collins, because they did it in Tarzan. And I said, no, we shouldn't do Phil Collins. We'll do like another British artist that was kind of like of that era. And then I said Oasis.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Peter Gabriel.
Oh, okay. I was like... that was a joke. I don't think I'd really do that. But
Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. Oh, Peter Gabriel. Yeah. I'd be down with a Peter Gabriel montage.
Hells yeah.
Anyway, that section kind of more or less plays out the same way. But throughout it, we see Silver, like, have a scene on his own where he's feeling conflicted. Like, he knows what he's about to do, and the audience knows what he's about to do, but he feels conflicted about it, obviously. Anyway, same scene where he overhears the fact that they're going to mutiny, and they all escape off the boat. But in this version, Silver actually lets them escape, playing it off like Jim has the map. I mean, he still thinks Jim has the map, but he plays it, he tells everybody like, oh, they had the map and we didn't want to destroy the map, but it's really because he didn't want to hurt Jim.
Yeah.
Anyway, they land on the planet, they meet Ben, the Martin Short character, all that can kind of more or less play out the same way because Martin Short's great.
He is great.
They go to his hideaway, they're held up there. And in this scene, Doppler apologizes to Jim. He's like, look, I'm sorry. And he talks about how he had to do, in order to get ahead in academia, he actually had to do the same thing as a scientist. In order to like get approvals for things, it was the same cutthroat environment. And he basically says like, look, that's the way the world is. And if you want to survive, that's what you have to do. And your father was the same way. But he took it to an extreme where he felt like he had to sever ties with everybody. And and he says, I think that's why he left, because he just felt like he needed to be on his own in order to succeed, and it's not your fault. And it's sort of his own strange, clumsy way of apologizing for what he did. Anyway, Silverland and his crew show up. They hold them. They set up camp outside, have like the siege. They have a little parlay between Silver and Jim. And basically, Silver this time pleads with Jim. He's like, look, I don't want to hurt you. And he tries to basically console Jim and tell him, like, my goal is not for anybody to get hurt. I just want the treasure. And he explains that, like, he lost whatever half of his body was in search of this treasure. So he's already given so much of this. But he doesn't want to, and it's never been his intent to hurt anybody, but he will if he has to. Anyway, they basically say like, I'm stealing from your pitch here. He says like, okay, well, you have till, Jim asks until sunrise, basically. And then Silver figures out, oh wait, he might not have the map. And that's how, and he's thinking one step ahead of Jim. Yeah. So Jim goes back to the boat in this version, but when he goes back to the boat, there's actually been a trap set for him.
Yeah.
And they catch Jim, they catch the doctor, and the captain, and but because Jim's the only one who knows how to use the map, he's able to lead them to go to the treasure. Anyway, that all kind of plays out more or less the same way. The only difference in this version is when they actually get to the treasure, Silver is so, like, he's got the treasure, and Jim is actually going to escape. Jim is ready to just go away, but when he sees that Silver is actually going to die because he can't give up the treasure, he actually goes back to rescue Silver. And he actually does. He goes back and he rescues Silver, and they all go back to the boat. But when they get back to the boat, like he does this knowing that Silver and his crew are still there. So they're technically still the ones that hold all the cards. And when he goes back, they're like, the crew are talking about like, okay, well, what do we do with all these three? And Silver basically, Jim thinks Silver is actually going to say like, no, we'll let them go. But Silver actually says, no, okay, well, we should like tie them up below deck. We're going to figure out what to do with them. So Jim, Doppler, Captain, Ben are below deck. Jim's feeling betrayed again. And then that night, Silver goes down below deck and basically explains to Jim, like says like, okay, this is the plan. I'm trying to buy you time. I'm going to get us closer to a spaceport and then let you escape. And he tells Jim like, I didn't want to kill you. But that's what everybody else wants to do. And I couldn't just let you off on a lifeboat out here because there's nothing. You'd just be lost floating in space. Anyway, one of his crew, Silver's crew, overhears this, and they throw a mutiny against him.
Oh, damn.
And they throw him below deck with the others. Anyway, in the midst of all this, the captain's ex-husband, who we saw at the beginning,
Yeah.
his boat shows up. He had actually been following them.
Tight.
And there's a big... I wanted to have a sea spaceship battle.
Yeah,
and that's what
why
happens.
wouldn't you?
Exactly. So anyway, in the process of this, Jim, Doppler, the captain, Silver are essentially rescued with the treasure, though. And we see there's like a little bit here of Doppler now feeling jealous because it's like, oh, she's just rescued by like the ex-husband, and we'd seen like glimpses that there was something starting to form between them. Anyway, but there's also clear that the other captain knows of this treasure and kind of wants some of it for himself. And also Silver is like a wanted pirate. So he's basically held captive. And Jim, and then there's be a series of scenes here where Jim's actually talking to Silver, and Silver's basically being held as a prisoner. And basically him and Jim talk about what to do, and Jim's worried that like, he's worried that now this captain is going to take some of their treasure, and they're not going to, and he now opens up to Silver, like, some of these pirates destroyed this inn that my mom had. And that's when Silver tells him, like, look, I was responsible for that. I'm the one who ordered them to go and find that guy. Jim did not know up to this point.
Betrayal.
So, but then he says, look, I'll make it up to you. If you let me out, I will help you steal it. And the two of us can escape. And we can help your mom build the inn. And you can sail away with me, and we can have our own crew and our own ship.
Yeah.
And Jim thinks about this, and Jim goes for it.
Yeah.
However, he lets Silver go, and I haven't got all the specifics worked out, but basically, Silver takes the treasure and disappears.
Oh.
And leaves Jim behind.
Yeah.
And now Jim's on the hook for basically having let this pirate go.
Yeah.
Now, Doppler and the captain are able to cover for him, and basically able to, like, they know that he did it.
Yeah.
But they're able to make it look like Silver actually managed to escape.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jim gets home, and he's like, why did I trust him? Like, he's betrayed. Like, I should have expected that he'd trust every time. But when he shows up, he's met at the dock by his mother, because he never actually properly got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And he shows up, and she's dressed very elegantly. And she's angry at him. She's really pissed off at him. Like, why did you go? Why did you go? And she scolds him. But then he asks her, like, what's going on? Something seems different. And then she said, oh, someone showed up. This, like, very rich man showed up and heard about the inn. And he felt sorry. And he gave me some money and said that he knew you. And then it turns out that Silver had actually gone back and given his mom the money that she needed to build the inn.
That's tight.
And that's the end of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. That was a bit long-winded, but
it was longer than most of your pitches, but I think it was necessary because you kept close to the original, but you had to rework some significant parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you really, you nailed it earlier when you said, if you're going to have Jim as the main character, then a lot of his things need to be reworked. What's interesting I found is that Jim doesn't actually talk all that much in the original movie.
No, it's true.
Which is a neat idea because it's like, oh, yeah, we can show a lot, but then also, like, what is his motivation? What is he doing? Why do I care about him?
Exactly, right.
And so you had to rework that. You had to be like, this, if we're going to make this a thing, then it has to be about Jim and his father.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure where you were going to go with it at the end because I really liked the idea where you were going to be like, why did I keep trusting Silver? He's betrayed me like 3 times now, and I trusted him again, and it got me in trouble. But then at the end, it turned out to be okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh man, maybe Jim is learning that he doesn't need a father figure, that he's got to figure shit out on his own, and that he shouldn't trust anyone. Because basically everyone who was his father figure in this movie winds up betraying him to some extent.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe you have this weird hang up about fathers. I don't think so. Your dad's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah. Well, I felt like I wanted to... Well, that was the Disney ending that, like, oh no, he did the right thing. He showed up and he gave him
I feel like
money.
Silver would, as a character, like, if you think about it, he would do something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now the thing is that the if I was to keep going with it, the one detail I thought about, like, he maybe didn't give Jim all of his half. He gave him enough so that Jim got what he originally set out for. And that was another bit of a, like, if I was to keep going with it, that's probably where I would have gone, where it's like, that would have been the epilogue where Jim goes, okay, he did the right thing, but he didn't really do 50-50.
Yeah.
Like Silver,
it was more like 98-2.
Exactly, like Silver, because in my opinion, the Silver character, he's interesting because he shows empathy for Jim.
Yeah.
But I think, in my opinion, really at the core, he's actually very selfish, and that's why he's very manipulative.
I think he's got to do both. That's what
exactly.
Yeah.
But when he does do the, like, he does little things that are selfless along the way.
Yeah.
But I think but it's not an even 50-50 when he does it.
You can definitely see, like, this characterization of a pirate definitely influenced, like, later versions of how we have Captain Jack Sparrow or Barbossa.
Yes, definitely.
You can see, like clearly, I mean, I don't like the way they drew Silver in this movie. Like the way he's, like, fat and overgrown.
Oh, the design? Yeah.
But I do like the characterization. I think the movie is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think his characterization is great.
I think so too. I liked his characterization in this. I thought it was like, I mean, as a character, it's a very rich character.
A lot to do with, and that's why I think he shines on screen. The movie's about him more than it is about Jim.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I would agree.
And I bet you most people would read the book for Silver more than they would read it for Hawkins.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, a fine movie, nothing super fantastic, but two good pitches for a fine movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't say my pitch was amazing, but it's hard to work with something that's already, like, well, I mean, if you like this movie, go watch the Muppets version.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually thinking that I want to actually go and read the original and just see what the original did with it.
What the original does.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes even adapting to a visual medium, because, like, if the book is told from Jim's perspective, that can change a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we get all his thoughts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website. That's www.nathanieldraper.com. That's Nathanael, not IEL.
Yeah.
And on Letterboxd at Draper Nate.
You can find my band Robot Philosopher on any place that you listen to awesome music. Exciting news, we're going into the studio to record a little EP and maybe a little something for Nathaniel as well. No spoilers. We are also... you can find our first album, The Universe is Calling, anywhere you listen to music. You can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow us here on CineMasters right on YouTube. Every week we got new podcasts plus bonus episodes now.
Yes.
And
bonus episode coming your way soon.
Yeah, coming your way soon. It's on horror movies, so maybe I'll save it for Halloween.
Ooh, yeah.
And you can also catch every other week new episodes of This Is a Thing, our video essay series. And until then, this has been Treasure Planet on CineMasters.
Treasure Planet.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.